I was doom scrolling a few weeks ago and I came across a video that I really liked because it got me down another introspective rabbit hole that got me thinking. It got me thinking. I'm an emotional creature, as a lot of you may know. I'm passionate, I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm sad. I'm a feeler is what I am. Even if I'm emotionally immature, I'm an emotional creature nonetheless. And this video got me thinking. Now, if you want to go check out any of these videos that I talk about, any of this work that I talk about in this video, I urge you to do so, maybe even before you go into this video, so you can be in the sort of same headspace that I was in when I created it. This first video that I want to talk about is called A Video for Me by a girl named Erin Chick In here on YouTube. She describes her thoughts as she says she feels like a side character in her own life, and she quickly clarifies that she doesn't want to be the center of the world, but she is nonetheless frustrated that others tend to disengage with her. She says people keep her at arm's length. They're not very emotional around her. And she concludes by the end that it might be because she is emotionally immature. And that hit home for me. I don't think people necessarily hold me at arm's length. I don't think people tend to disengage with me. A lot of times I've been told I'm a very natural-born leader. Like, I am good at striking up conversations. I am good at social maneuvers, I suppose I'll say. And so, regardless, that still got me thinking about my first video. That got me thinking about how I'm very emotionally immature. I called myself a child. I feel like an adolescent in my own body, given my experience with growing up in school. I didn't pay attention. I've only been awake for a small portion of my life. I've only been interested in growing and sponging in all this knowledge and developing my skills in art as of recent. So one of my main ideas in my video was the fluctuation of two halves of myself. I represented this with two pictures of the same kite, but one from the future where it was destroyed and withered away given time. So I compared that to two halves of myself, even though in reality it's just one kite at two different points in time. I wanted to make a stark contrast about how I think parts of me are deteriorating and falling away and destroying themselves. And that got me thinking, well, where do I think these two halves of me come from? Was I born with two halves of me, one that wants to do anything it wants and one that wants to play by the rules, I suppose I'll say? And that's such an edgy way to put it, right? It's so edgy to say, I don't want to play by the rules. It's so edgy to be like, somebody else set me on this path of darkness, but it's a very real feeling, and that was proven to me when I saw another video called I Am in a Battle Between Heaven and Hell by an exonym. I got to talking with this person once or twice. They left a comment on my YouTube channel. I left one, maybe two on theirs. But this video, I Am in a Battle Between Heaven and Hell, I went into it thinking it would have the same sort of edge that I was just talking about. I expected a Shadow the Hedgehog quote, but I was pleasantly surprised, because it is an incredibly layered, narrative, poetic piece. It's got style that is unmatched, in my opinion. To me, it is one of the most incredible pieces of poetry I've ever seen. I Am in a Battle Between Heaven and Hell quickly sets up the stakes. An exonym outlines the problems that they struggle with in real life. The want, the need to be validated and recognized for their art. And they compare how anything that comes with success, attention and money, power, ego, respect, and validation, all of these things are like a spirit. A spirit that is all-consuming, that wants your energy, that wants you to keep feeding it, that wants you to work for it. They explain how, in their mind, this spirit works with and against another spirit. A spirit that wants you to fail. A spirit that wants you to stay ignored, stay forgotten, stay humble, and have humility and be meek. And I think heaven and hell are pseudonyms for these two spirits. Something that caught me off guard after I finished the video was the fact that an exonym seems to have very similar views of both of these spirits. They seem almost apathetic to whichever one is going to win and run its course in them. One line that caught me in particular was, "Hope is as hollow as fear." That's something that I didn't expect to hear, and something that I almost immediately dismissed until I thought about it a little harder. I started thinking about why they group good things in the hell spirit and bad things in the heaven spirit. You would not want to be ignored or forgotten in heaven. You would not want power or success in hell necessarily, given the stakes. So I got to thinking a little harder about it, and I also noticed that humility and meekness, those are things that a heavenly person would want. Respect and validation, those are things that, a relatively hellish person would want. And perhaps that's the key right there. The way I took it was similar to the Bible verse. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter heaven. Perhaps you need to stay humble. Perhaps you need to stay forgotten and ignored so you don't grow that ego, so you don't abuse your power, so you don't get attention, so you stay meek, so you stay humble. The use of religious imagery and symbolism to convey their own battle with morality is something that I found very, very interesting. There was mention of the fact that they could paint their skin blue and trick a particular person into thinking that they are a Hindu deva and that they are a deity. And what they mean by that is that sometimes to get anywhere, to get the respect and validation you want, to get the power you crave, you need to sacrifice your morals and trick people. It requires a very stupid person to believe that a human is a deity. But at the same time, if you find a dumb enough person, what do? Do you take the opportunity that's been presented to you, or do you do the right thing? Do you forego your knowledge? Do you forego the knowledge of this person is dumb and keep yourself humble and forgotten, or do you seize the day, carpe diem? And this got me thinking, does my religion help me fight the evil half of myself? The emotional immaturity? Does it help me destroy the want for power? Because I think that's a human need almost. Everybody wants to be useful. Everybody wants to have a use and a purpose and something to supersede. Everybody wants to be above everyone else. Life is one big competition. Does my religion inspire me to do good at all? You would think that my Christian upbringing would make me more mature and less evil by this point. You'd think I'd have grown faster. You'd think I'd be more mature by now, that I would have woken up sooner, that I would have been useful for something. God has a plan, does he not? That's what I've heard my entire life, yet still, I'm only like 3 years old. The need for validation, success, recognition, power, money, etc. frustrates. That's all it does. It just frustrates. Sometimes to get anywhere, your morals do need to be swallowed. Morals are a poor man's quality. That's what they always say. Business is predatory, and art is becoming a business, so what do you do as an artist? What happens when everything is a business? 2 semesters ago, I read a book by Margaret Atwood called Oryx and Crake. Now, I don't suggest you read this book because, in my opinion, it's pretty degenerate and it doesn't have a lot of things to say. It includes topics like child porn and cannibalism and sexual exploitation of women, but it doesn't really say anything insightful about it. Now, even though I obviously agree, all of these things, pornography, abuse, trafficking, cannibalism, all of it is terrible and terrible, terrible, terrible. It's not enough to just point out that they're bad. You have to tell the audience how these things are consuming. I view a lot of these things as a spirit that really does encompass society. Maybe that's my battle of heaven and hell, me versus society. It's not just enough to point out that these things are bad. You need to actively fight against them. You need to show me how they spring up and rear their ugly heads and how to chop those heads off. It doesn't offer a lot of insight or important ideas. Everything in this book that is bad is just bad because we know it's bad already. But how does it lead to the downfall of a moral society? How do we retain morality? How do we fight evil and stay good if that's even what we want in the first place? The ending kills it. It says, because a mad scientist might release a plague that kills everybody to start over with a perfect redesign of humanity. And that's not a satisfactory ending. A mad scientist might release a plague that kills everybody. That's why we should keep society moral? But what it does do well. And here's what it does do. It explores moral degradation, degeneracy in a society. One thing that they brought up was how morals tend to follow convenience rather than ethics. There is a scene where pigs are DNA spliced with humans and raccoons. They are harvested for their meat without killing the creature, making it very, very safe and pro-animal life. However, they are part human. That is the caveat there. The masses agree eating these creatures is immoral because that's borderline cannibalism. Even if it's legal, it's not a good thing for your soul until regular meat, regular pork and beef becomes unavailable. Then, slowly, people start changing their morality. Slowly, it becomes normal because people want to eat meat more than they want to do the right thing. The right thing is obviously don't engage in cannibalism, right? It's using human stem cells. You are eating human flesh. But it's more convenient to eat human flesh than a vegetable, I suppose. And I think that's a very poignant take. And that's somewhat similar to what an exonym said. Your morals follow what you want. When art becomes a business, it becomes predatory because people are consumed by one type of spirit. When people legalize and accept cannibalism morally, it's because they've been taken over by one type of spirit, one that wants to make money off of these pig-human-raccoon hybrids. Now, I want to bring up one more thing, and this is somewhat unrelated, but it's also shaped how I think about morality. Kendrick Lamar's album, Damn, is my favorite album ever made. I'm not huge into hip-hop. One of the only other rappers that I really know a large amount of albums for is Eminem, because when I was between the ages of 11 and 14... maybe even 9 and 14. That's the only artist I would listen to. I didn't realize that it was practically corporate mega slop. Sorry, Eminem fans, but it's true. A lot of what Eminem puts out is corporate mega slop. But Damn, in particular, is one of the most morally significant things that I base a lot of my life around. The album centers around two separate narratives while listening to the album. Either forwards or backwards changes how the narrative plays out and what the events of this concept album are. When you listen to it forward, it is a rich and successful Kendrick getting killed instantly by a blind woman. This woman is supposed to represent either Lady Justice or God. Justice is blind. He is killed because he has lived a life of wickedness to no end. While he is dying, he is slowly having his life flash before his eyes until he reaches an epiphany. He realizes the kind of life of hedonism that he has led, and this crescendos into the second-to-last song, titled God. God is my favorite song on this album, and I might be in the 0.001% of people who both think this is his best album and best song. But I think this because it is so poetically significant. It is his euphoric come to grips with his own death. Or perhaps the whole album was actually to signify his ego's death. It is a metatextual statement on the death of the author, I suppose. It's as if you can really see Kendrick bleeding on the sidewalk, and the adrenaline is giving him a sense of euphoria. In the song, he asks God not to judge him for his misdeeds while he is laying on the sidewalk, bleeding out and dying. The lyrics read as follows, and forgive my singing voice. Look, hold up. Don't judge me, my mama caught me with the strap. Don't judge me, I was young fucking all the brats. Don't judge me, aiming at your head for a stack. Don't judge. Don't judge me, now my home has got a valley peak. Don't judge me, if I press your line you a freak. Don't judge me, won't you tell a friend and y'all gon' see this what God feel like? Yeah. Laughing to the bank like, yeah. Flex on swole like, You feel some type of way. Oh, I'm sorry guys. That won't happen again, I swear to God. All of these lines are so familiar. Your mom catches you do something bad, you beg for forgiveness. When you were younger, you do things you don't mean to do. You beg for forgiveness. You become violent at one point or another. Everybody has hit somebody at one point. Everybody has pushed somebody. Everybody's got into an argument, an altercation of some kind. And what you do is you beg for forgiveness. Please don't judge me. He sees where he's come from versus where he is. Now my home has a valley peak. Don't judge me. If I press your line, you're a freak. Don't judge me. Won't you tell a friend? Y'all are gonna see. He is excited to express his new life. He doesn't want it taken away. He doesn't want to be judged. However, when you listen to the album backwards, it starts completely different. Instead of Kendrick being killed instantly, it is his father killed instantly at gunpoint during a robbery. And this story follows Kendrick's descent into toxicity and utter mania. Now, instead of being killed by Lady Justice, by God at the beginning of the album, he is killed at the end. Now, God is a song that was indicative of his euphoric epiphany, but is now a song about a grieving Kendrick slowly falling down a darker path. A line in the beginning of the song, ever since a young man, all I wanna be was a gunman. It is not a reflection on his old self, but a celebration of meeting his dream. He is now a gangbanger. Now he is a gunman, like he always wanted. Aiming at your head for a stack is no longer a reflection on his old self. Now it is a celebration. Don't judge me is not him pleading with God for forgiveness. It is him telling everybody, society as a whole, his friends, his family, everybody, don't judge me. I can do whatever I want. He tells everybody not to judge me. Now he kills people for money. He has swallowed his morals for success. I relate to all of these ideas on a very personal level. I am constantly shifting between bouts of mania and depression. You see this in the likes of the other songs on this album. DNA and Yaw and Humble and Fear, etc. I've got royalty inside my DNA. I've got so many theories and suspicions. Sit down. Be humble. If I could smoke fear away, I'd roll that motherfucker up. Success and recognition are important to me too. But am I willing to do what I don't necessarily have to, but what I can do to meet that dream? I want to be an author. Am I willing to write about heinous, degenerate things to get there? The writing world is changing as we know it. Poetry is being ruined. Narrative fiction is being ruined. Self-inserts are all the rage. Nobody wants to read anything that asks them to work for exposition. I think my identity as an artist is a source of a lot of my monstrosity. A lot of my traits that I view as monstrous, like my emotional ineptitude, like my immaturity, like my anger, my dissatisfaction with mediocrity, my high standards, my passion for things that don't ultimately matter, none of it actually does matter in the end. I think they're right about comparing it to two different spirits, and I think I need to come to grips with both of these halves of me and let them both live simultaneously, or else one is going to consume. And what happens if I don't like that thing that consumes me? That's going to be all for this video. Thank you for going along on this journey with me. I hope that was at least somewhat insightful and that you guys enjoyed it. Goodbye.